last time Halley swept through the heart of our solar system, the world contracted comet fever. Songwriters celebrated with tunes of glory like this Comet Rag. Advertisers hooked their fortunes to its tail. And Thomas Edison recruited Ziegfeld Follies stars to help make this cartoon celebrating the comet's return. But for some, May 18th, 1910 was to be the end of the world. Many worried about a direct collision with the comet's nucleus. Others feared Halley's wraith-like tail, which was predicted to sweep the Earth.
On May the 18th, the astronomers did say that great big tail would flop this way. For 2 hours and a half in that gas we would stay. How many would die they would not say. Some went crazy, some began to cry.
Fearful citizens gathered in churches and camp meetings to pray for deliverance from the celestial visitor. Swindlers built several $1,000s from gullible citizens who purchased comet pills and mouth inhalers to protect them from Halley's alleged poisonous gases. Acting on the advice of an Oxford scholar, Chicago's General Committee for the Reception of Halley's Comet purchased 600 quarts of champagne. After ceremoniously being drained, the bottles were to be filled with air on the day the comet zipped by. The committee reasoned that these samples of Halley's vintage dregs could be passed on to posterity. The excitement over Halley goes back to 240 BC, when it was discovered by Chinese astronomers at this observatory outside Nanking. With only one exception, these early astronomers recorded an uninterrupted log of the comet's comings and goings. Western knowledge of comets lagged far behind the Chinese. As early as Aristotle, these ghostly apparitions were regarded primarily as messengers of disaster, not natural objects fit for scientific scrutiny. For example, the famous Bayeux tapestry depicts England's King Harold in 1066 being warned of the comet's arrival. Harold imagines ghostly invasion ships that foreshadow his defeat by the Normans. William the Conqueror's gathering army indeed would have seen Halley as an impressive omen hanging in the western skies over England. But it was the prowess of William's army, not the comet, that defeated Harold. Stylized though it is, the comet's overall form is not all that unrealistic when compared to this 1910 telescopic view. Medieval scholars continue to record the passage of the hairy star, as it was called. The monk Edwina in his Book of Psalms. Florentine painter Giotto di Bondone, whose frescoes in Padua, Italy, helped to inspire the European Space Agency's 1986 mission to Halley. And in a drawing in the Nuremberg Chronicles of 1493, depicting Halley's transit 8 centuries earlier. This woodcut is believed to be the first published sketch of the brilliant comet. Despite all the attention that comets received then, enlightened thinkers like Martin Luther still preached that they were nothing but harlot stars and works of the devil. During the late Renaissance, scores of broadsides, equivalent to a newspaper's special edition, echoed this theme, until the English astronomer Edmund Halley became obsessed with comets. After years of effort, Halley determined that the mysterious comet he had observed early one fall morning in 1682 matched previous sightings. Relying on his friend Isaac Newton's revolutionary theory of gravity, Halley predicted that the 1682 comet would reappear about 75 years after it had blazed across the London sky. On Christmas night in 1758, a German amateur astronomer spotted the wanderer's return. The comet was right on schedule, ensuring Halley's fame forever. Halley's journey around the solar system takes but 2 generations of Earth time, just 76 years. Yet this last time around has been long enough for man to acquire wings, relativity to be born, Robert Goddard's rockets to fly, and Charles Lindbergh's spirit to soar. By the time Jesse Owens crosses the Olympics finish line, Halley has retreated well beyond Neptune. When the comet is at the end of its solar tether and traveling slowest, the sound barrier is broken. With Sputnik, man moves off the planet. First, his instruments, then himself, and leaves his footprints on another world. The plains of Mars are seen remotely, and voyages beyond expand that vision. Though it still is far beyond the realm of Saturn, Earth-based telescopes begin their search to find the returning comet. Success. In October 1982, Palomar astronomers identify the comet as this tiny smudge on their photographic plates. This is the first evidence that Halley is once again heading back our way. Our present knowledge of comets is limited by what scientists have observed from Earth, in orbit, and from samples of comet dust collected above the Earth by high-flying jets. Shown here, highly magnified, is one such sample. These microscopic fragments of cometary debris filter into the stratosphere, where they are gathered and brought back for chemical analysis. We know of thousands of comets, and the orbits of most of them have been calculated. Some may take millions of years to orbit the sun. Others, like Halley, have shorter periods, as little as 3 years in one case. Scientists believe that at the heart of a comet is its nucleus, an irregular clump of ice and dust. This dirty snowball generally is no more than about 15 kilometers in diameter. Surrounding this nucleus, but only when it nears the sun, is the coma, a cloud of dust and gas boiled off by the sun's heat. A comet's most striking feature is its tail, caused by solar light pressure, which blows tiny dust particles and gas away from the comet's head. Some tails stretch halfway across the sky. New comets continue to enter the solar system, but from where? If we travel far away from the sun until it becomes just another bright star in the sky, we would encounter a giant cloud of frozen objects enveloping the entire solar system. This is the Oort cloud of primordial comets, billions of icy remnants that have been here since the solar system was formed 4.6 billion years ago. Occasionally, one is kicked out of this celestial deep freeze by the gravitational force of a passing star, and the comet begins its slow journey toward the inner solar system. Because Halley is one of the brightest and also one of the more frequent of these visitors, scientists are eager to probe it with spacecraft. Such missions will add greatly to our understanding of how the solar system was formed. The Japanese Institute of Space and Astronautical Science, the European Space Agency, And the Soviet Union's Academy of Sciences will launch robot spacecraft to intercept the comet shortly after it passes around the sun. The United States will launch special Halley tracking telescopes aboard Space Shuttle and help to coordinate the International Halley Watch among ground observers. This is the first time space missions to a comet have ever been attempted. Two identical Soviet spacecraft are scheduled for launch, and a year and a half later, they will drop entry probes into the Venus atmosphere, then continue after receiving a kick from the planet's gravity to help them on their way. The first Vega is scheduled to intercept Halley, and the second about a week later. Each spacecraft will carry cameras to take detailed pictures of the coma and nucleus. Other instruments aboard the spacecraft will measure the temperature and composition of the coma and the surrounding space environment. Japan's first full attempt at interplanetary flight is scheduled for launch. Named Planet A, this mission to Halley will use a three-stage kick motor to place it directly on an intercept trajectory to the comet. The cylindrical spacecraft will carry instruments to measure the solar wind in the vicinity of the comet and to picture the glowing hydrogen surrounding its coma. Planet A will arrive about the same time as the Vega spacecraft, but pass further away because of uncertainties in controlling its trajectory. European Space Agency's Giotto mission. After first being placed in a geostationary transfer orbit, Giotto will separate from its booster, then fire an onboard solid rocket motor to propel it toward the rendezvous with Halley 8 months later. The 3-meter-high spacecraft carries 10 sensors. One of the most important is a color camera capable of resolving details in Halley's nucleus as small as 30 meters across. Whether it actually will be able to see through to the solid nucleus is a major uncertainty. Preparations also are being made for NASA's space shuttle to carry into orbit 3 ultraviolet telescopes and a wide-field camera which will examine Halley as it loops around the sun. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California and the Remis Observatory in the Federal Republic of Germany are coordinating a worldwide network of ground-based observers. Hundreds of astronomers, professional and amateur alike, are joining this International Halley Watch. Just about all the world's observatories, optical and radio, will be focusing on Halley when it swings by, coordinating their sightings through the Halley Watch. Never before has a single celestial object been the target of such concentrated scrutiny. NASA will also be redirecting the flight of International Sun-Earth Explorer No. 3, IC-3 for short. 6 months before the Halley missions reach their target, this bristly little spacecraft will fly by the comet Giacobini-Zinner. After 7 years on station, monitoring solar activity, IC-3 has been diverted into the most complex series of maneuvers ever undertaken by a spacecraft. The spacecraft is being put into a number of loop-de-loops that use the Earth's and Moon's gravity to give IC-3 enough energy to make the intercept. The final onboard firing will kick the tiny spacecraft close by the Earth, then around the lunar far side, just 90 kilometers above its surface, before speeding off to find the comet. IC-3's instruments will help scientists to understand the interaction of the solar wind on comets. If it survives the encounter, IC-3 will then pass upwind of Comet Halley. There it will collect valuable measurements to be used in interpreting the information radioed back by the 4 missions intercepting Halley. The European Space Agency's Giotto will also undertake some tricky space navigation. Controllers will attempt to target it within 500 kilometers of Halley's nucleus. But the precise calculation of any comet's orbital path is extremely difficult. The boiling off of dust and gas causes a thrusting effect that changes the comet's trajectory in ways that are not predictable. So the attempt to get Giotto close to the comet requires some careful cooperation. The Soviet Vega will act as a pathfinder, sending back en route pictures to fix Halley's position relative to a known star background. and NASA's Deep Space Network will track Vega to within a few meters in space. By comparing these two navigational fixes, the European Space Agency will be able to pinpoint Halley's latest position. The day before encounter, Giotto will fire thrusters to correct its course, thus ensuring a close flyby of the comet. But the close flyby is extremely hazardous. Giotto will zoom into a storm of dust particles as it nears Halley. Its two bumper shields may not provide enough protection. Since Halley travels against the grain of the solar system opposite the direction planets orbit, its velocity relative to the spacecraft will be a staggering 78 kilometers per second. Tiny though they are, dust particles at this speed pack enormous wallop. Giotto has little chance of surviving. Giotto, Planet A, Vega, and all the other Halley observations will seek to pierce the veil obscuring one of the oldest puzzles in science. They hope to accomplish what mankind first began over 2,000 years ago. It literally is the chance of a lifetime. And Halley, no longer quite so mysterious or ominous, will quietly retreat into the dimness of space, only to return fresh and dazzling once again in the year 2061.